Hey guys, it is Jake from the Hoops Crew, just here with a quick news video in the middle of your week or later in your week, here on a Thursday, just reacting to the news a few days ago of AFLW captain Meg McDonald announcing that she will retire at the end of the 2025 season. The announcement came on the Cats website. Geelong's longest serving AFLW captain, Meg McDonald, announcing that she'll retire at the end of the 2025 season. Started her career at the Western Bulldogs, didn't play a heap of games for the Doggies, just the 4 in 2017. Went back, and played a little footy at Darebin Falcons, and then relaunched her AFLW career at the Cats in 2019. She was All-Australian in that first season for Geelong. Was All-Australian again in 2021, the first year that she was captain, and has captained the team since that moment until the day she will retire, which looks like it will come against the Demons Saturday night down at Cardinia Park. So do make sure you get along to that game. It feels like it's an interesting moment in the podcast from my perspective. Obviously, I want to celebrate the player, Meg McDonald. What an absolute brilliant servant of the Geelong Football Club. Not just the AFLW, I think as a whole, like the way that Geelong has over time tried to integrate those teams together. I think Meg McDonald seems to have been a pretty big part in that. But just as a football player, I mean, this was a player who at the height of her powers was an All-Australian, was one of Geelong's best defenders, was always a calming, relieving presence down back for the Cats. At her best, she was an almost impossible to pass sort of intercept defender, and stalwart. And I really hoped that she was going to be not only Geelong's longest serving AFLW captain, but the club's first AFLW premiership captain as well. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. There's all sorts of results that need to go Geelong's way this weekend, including beating the Demons, which is a tough ask, to get the Cats into another finals campaign. But, this season probably hasn't gone how Geelong wanted it. I imagine it's not gone how Meg McDonald has wanted it. I think it became fairly obvious that she was mulling retirement. Just moments in the season, like with her omission from the side, which, she seemed to be at least partly responsible for. That's what it seemed like anyway from the outside, that she was at least part of that decision-making process to not be selected. And, that sort of stuff is just out of the ordinary. And so it does make you raise questions of, is this going to be her last season? And ultimately, it has proved to be so. But although the career might not be ending in a place that she wants it to have done, like in terms of the results this year, I think when you look at her legacy that she will leave at the Cats from her playing days, it's pretty hard to call it anything other than a resounding success. The reason this feels sort of poignant for me is because the first team that we covered on this podcast was the AFLW side. The Chaps launched in 2020. At the end of the 2020 season, the men's was done, and during the lockdown period, we would sit around on Zoom and chat with each other after the men's games, and that eventually led to us saying, well, why don't we start a podcast? We're sitting around chatting anyway for hours after the games. Let's do it. Let's launch it for the AFLW season. We'll cover both the women's and then the men's season. And so we covered that 2021 AFLW side. And look, they were one of the worst teams in the competition. It was Meg McDonald, her first year as captain. It was Paul Hood's last season as coach. And so it's hard for me not to tie this era of Cats footy from 2021 to now with Meg McDonald and Dan Lowther, who sort of from 2022 onwards and that 2021 off season really reshaped everything that Geelong had been in their first few years as an AFLW club. They immediately made the team better defensively in terms of their work rate, their positioning, their discipline, their ferocity with their tackling, their commitment to pressure. And from there, they really built an identity around what this team was. It started with defense and hard work. And by 2023, when Geelong were firing on all cylinders and made it to that prelim final against Brisbane, they had also shaped an attacking identity. And so far through the history of this club, Meg McDonald can say she's been Geelong's most successful captain. She can say that she took a team, she helped to take a team that was right down the bottom of the ladder in 2021 to a prelim final in 2023 and to a place now where in 2024 and 2025, the fan base and the playing group are disappointed that they're not making finals. That that finals have sort of become the bare minimum expectation for this team. That's a crazy transformation, in sort of half a decade. And Meg McDonald's been right at the sort of heart of that. You could see in the recruitment trips they took over to Ireland, it wasn't just Dan Lowther. It was captain and coach going and trying to pitch and recruit players like Aisling Maloney. And watching from the outside, it just seemed like Meg McDonald helped build a culture at the Cats that people wanted to come and be involved in. And hopefully that's a culture that other players can carry into the future. So, yeah, it's obviously going to be bittersweet for her. It's bittersweet from my perspective as a podcaster. I really, really thought that we would get to see Meg McDonald hold that premiership cup aloft at some point in the course of us doing this podcast. But, and so that's the bitter part of it that she doesn't get to. But the sweet part of it is that she has totally helped transform this AFLW Cats program. The expectations are higher than ever the last two seasons. And when we started podcasting about this team, barely anyone was watching. The play on the field was not brilliant. And now we're in a spot where we're saying it feels like a disappointing campaign because we might miss out by a game from playing finals. And we went to a prelim just a couple of years ago. So, yeah, massive credit to her. I think she can take a lot of responsibility for how good this team has become at its peak. I think she can take a lot of responsibility for how high the expectations have been raised at the AFLW Cats. So that's pretty massive. That's an on and off field thing. So thank you, Meg McDonald, for your career at the Cats. It was a pleasure to watch it. And yeah, best of luck to obviously for the weekend. And hopefully the footy gods are on our side and we can beat the D's and other things can go our way and we can be in finals again. But if not, I hope your last game is enjoyable. I hope we get a win, whether that means finals or not. And best of luck to whatever comes next. And I'm not sure what that will be, but I really would hope that it would be, something that stays in footy and coaching. Yeah, I don't know. It's always interesting to see which direction players go, whether they want to stay around immediately or sometimes they look like they might want space, for a year or two before finding their footing in some sort of new role in footy. So we'll wait and see, but whatever it is, I'm sure that Meg will knock it out of the park and we wish her the best of luck with it. Ridiculous amount of games too. We'll have played 76 AFLW matches by the time Saturday evening is over. And given the short seasons, given the short career she's been able to put together in the time available to her, it's a pretty incredible effort to get there. just to end this little video, just wanted to think too ahead to 2026. Obviously, this team now, it's been carried from one place to another. We just talked about it in terms of the raising of the bar of expectations and what fans and players and coaches and administrators and that think that this AFLW Cats team is capable of, with the growth that's happened in Meg's captaincy. It's been insane. So, but now we're at another point. So now the starting point for this next captain is, hey, finals are the expectation, and we want to go from finals to winning a flag. That's the sort of going to be the responsibility of the coaching group, the playing group, and the captain moving forward. So just a bit of speculation on our part, I guess, and I'll speak for the chaps too, because they've had thoughts. You know, we've long earmarked a few candidates on the pod who we think could take over when Meg hangs up the boots. And one of those has been Becky Webster, another stalwart down back. Hasn't necessarily been her best statistical season, but we sort of feel that she has a lot of on-field leadership. You know, I think she would be a natural fit for it. So she's definitely someone, Becky Webster, that we think is in that conversation from our point of view. I think it's instructive too to look at things like, you know, the AFLW Cats have their own podcast. The AFLW Cats regularly feature on other, you know, podcasts and media products at the footy club. So I think there's something to that of looking at the overlap of players who the club are putting up for media, players who are in the leadership group already. So, you know, I think Becky Webster fits there. You've got people like Georgie Rankin. Another one that we've thrown out as well that I think would be a great pick is Michaela Bowen, a former West Coast Eagle who has sort of made Geelong her home and has been one of Geelong's probably top 2 or 3 performers this season. Just absolute hard running, ferocious, tough, you know, creative as well as a football player. She's not just a defensive weapon in terms of her tackling and pressure, but she also uses the ball really well. So Michaela Bowen is one too who seems to do a lot of leadership stuff on and off the field. So I think there's some natural names that will come up. One of those being Nina Morrison, long-time Cat, long-time Geelong person. And those are sort of probably the 3 I would look at if it was me. Becky Webster, Nina Morrison, Michaela Bowen, maybe someone like Georgie Rankin as well. But I really, if it was down to me, it would be between Morrison, Webster, and Bowen. And right now, I think I would probably be leaning towards Bowen. I think she has shown, you know, anecdotally, you know, from just what you watch on the field, how different players respond in different moments, how they seem to take results when they don't go your way. Like Bowen just seems to be someone who's going to absolutely drive insane standards. And so I think that can only be a good thing, to be honest. I think, yeah, I think, yeah, she'd be my vote right now, but would be very happy for whoever it is. But I think from our podcast's perspective, that those would be the 3 names we'd throw out there: Webster, Morrison, Bowen. We'll see if it happens. But that'll be all from me. Thanks, Meg. You've been an absolute champion. We look forward to you going around on the footy field at least one more time on Saturday night. Thanks, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to follow all the stuff here on the Hoops Crew. Until next time, go Cats!